So, since the Corporate Counterculture podcast is centered around people and brands making a revolutionary difference, I love to ask a fun question, which is what does it mean to you to be revolutionary?
Let's see, revolutionary. I mean, one of the things that comes up right now for me is we live in a culture where primarily people are either consuming or criticizing what's happening around them. So there's very few people who are actually creating. I do think that there's probably more people who are creating than ever before in a certain sense, but there's also just a lot of people who are commenting on the things that are happening. And so I think that right now, anyone who's creating anything, whether it's a podcast or writing a poem or creating a piece of art, creating an event, and is contributing as opposed to criticizing, I think that in a certain way that feels like, I don't know if it's revolutionary, but it feels like it's a powerful act in the world that we're in right now. So I'm a big advocate for people to be creators and to take action and to make things in the world as opposed to just trying to tear down the things around them or just nitpick the things that are already been created. So that's one thing I often think about. And to be revolutionary, I think another thing that comes to mind is what it's like for me or for anyone else to truly follow the voices that are guiding me towards the things that I really care about or that I want to create, without letting the sometimes overwhelming voices of criticism like drag me down. So what it means to be in a certain way, it's a pure direction, momentum forward towards the things that I really love or care about, instead of, I guess, succumbing to like the societal noise. So I think like being revolutionary in that way is following that unique call that like drives us forward.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned like really kind of listening to your own internal compass and letting that guide you and just drowning out the noise, which brings up a funny follow up question, which is with people who are revolutionary and driving change and really staying true to their own internal compass tends to come what I call the haters. Tend to get a few of them. However, they typically are your biggest fans if you look at it that way. But I'd love to know from you, have you ever received an insult that you actually took as a compliment along this journey?
I think that, I mean, the work that we do is pretty provocative. We're getting people to take risks and do things
Mm.
that they don't usually do. So we have occasionally been in spaces where we've been part of a team. We've been leading a workshop for a group of people that has perhaps you could call it a toxic culture.
Mhm.
And so what we're doing is asking people to be more vulnerable, open with one another. And we're working in a place occasionally where that's actually really not safe for them to do so. So we're pushing people. And so in that case, sometimes people might give like really poor feedback reviews. And so sometimes when I see that, and I actually look a little closer, I realize that they don't like to be uncomfortable. So when we push people into a space where they're being uncomfortable, sometimes they recognize this is a really good learning on opportunity. And other times people, especially executives, can be really, really like, this is a time to take a cell phone break, or this is like really not something I want to lean into. So I've just learned to sometimes take feedback with a grain of salt, and also especially when they say they didn't have a necessarily good experience, to dig a little deeper and actually learn what was going on for that specific person. Because oftentimes what's happening is they were asked to do something that they felt a little bit uncomfortable doing, and so it brought up an opportunity for learning for them, whether they took it or not. So um, yeah, I think the other thing though, that a long time ago we banned alcohol entirely from our gatherings. People used to have a little bit of wine before the workshops that we did, and it just, I think, a couple times led to people acting in front of their team in a way that just felt inappropriate and not necessarily like productive for the work that we're doing, which is really about helping people connect with one another. So
That guy came out.
that guy came out. Yeah.
It happens. Um, yeah, I mean, just based on what you said, like I again just want to make a call to executives who are hearing this. And especially, you said executives being like, okay, let's take a cell phone break and being afraid for their teams to be uncomfortable. I kind of have a philosophical issue with that. I think every business leader or every unit leader has, what I refer to, and somebody along my journey, mentor, called me BHAG, so big, hairy, audacious goals to hit as a company. And how are you going to hit big, hairy, audacious goals if everybody's comfortable all the time? That requires you to get outside of your comfort zone. So what better way to do it than in a very safe, structured environment with a trained guide who's saying this is a safe and progressive way to do it. You're surrounded by love and empathy. We can take breaks as needed. We'll kind of watch the energy in the room. But again, just kind of want to reiterate my call to executives who are hearing this. Teams should be uncomfortable. That's where you get to the good stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's just tricky around how do you create an uncomfortable environment where people still feel safe enough to actually stay in it,
Right.
instead of, like I said, like leaving for a cell phone break, or I think for me personally, it's a different thing entirely if I'm being guided or facilitated by somebody who I don't trust, and then I feel uncomfortable for that reason. That's very different, because I certainly won't open up in that environment, versus if I know I'm being pushed into an area, like for instance, just having really candid conversations and giving constructive feedback in a really honest way. That's an area for me that is like, ooh, this is a little edgy. So I think that I need to be guided through that in a little bit of a safe container.
All right, fantastic. Well, Adam, is there anything I haven't asked you today that you wish I had?
I think part of I guess our special ingredient is the fact that we use the arts, and that we also really, really emphasize good facilitation and experience design. So I think, like I mentioned, from a very young age, when I was 13, I experienced people who are using different art forms to help participants connect really deeply with themselves and one another. And so a big part of our process, and what I believe in, is that the arts are not necessarily just for aesthetic value or used to get people to become good at painting, drawing, writing, dancing. I really believe that the arts are a super powerful tool that we can all use to help people connect with one another and with themselves, and just as a vehicle for creating learning environments. So I don't see it happening very often that we bring different art forms into the business environment. And so I'd say that's something that I just always encourage people to experiment with a little bit around, like, what would it be like actually if they brought music and a writing exercise into their next company meeting, if they were just playing music and getting people to free write on a question around, even what would be your greatest dream for this next 2 hours, and get people to write for 3 minutes to music, and have that be as a way to start the meeting, instead of just using talk, listen as and slides as the typical format. So I'm always just asking people to mix it up a little bit, because I think we're all, especially with the amount of online meetings that we're part of, looking for fresh new ways that we can engage.
Yeah, I love that. And sharing a little bit about my personal journey. Anybody who knows me well, and I know we've only had a few interactions, knows I'm quite the open book. But a lot of my journey behind the Conscious Culture Fairy that is hosting this podcast, and the brand centered on conscious collaboration, is my own healing journey. And I entered the healthcare revolution after almost dying 4 times in my 40 years, and 65 surgeries and procedures. And your point about arts being healing, it's been such a huge part, creativity and arts. So not only have I had many, many surgeries and months in hospitals and months to years in bed recovering. But also I am a CPTSD sufferer, and was diagnosed this past fall with PTSD, and I've had it most of my life, but did not know that. And so it's interesting to me along that journey, I couldn't always explain to people why I would always say movement and arts is my life. Like, they'd be like, what do you do in your free time? What are your hobbies? And I was like, I don't know their hobbies. I just do yoga, Pilates. I go stand by the bay and dance. I listen to music constantly. I was like, it's my life. I journal, I do artwork. And I realized that like that internal voice that guides us, even when you don't necessarily know why your soul's suffering, it knew what the answer was, and it was creativity and art and human connection. And then having this all come together throughout the last 6 months to a year of my life, and realizing how it fit together and how incredibly healing and kind of the fortitude that it takes to keep going when you don't know why you're struggling and suffering in life. I'm really passionate about bringing these tools to others because I think a lot of us can relate, are in maybe you haven't had 65 surgeries and procedures, that's a little bit rare, but we've all had such huge struggles in life, and the worst thing anybody's experienced is the worst thing imaginable. There's no comparing or ranking any of our human experiences. And the arts are something that really touch people on a soul level and allow you to heal from some of those sufferings. So again, I'm so thankful to you, Adam, for joining today. Really excited about the Late Nite Art team, and I'd love to give you the opportunity to tell everybody where to find you, the best way to reach out for more information, because I'm sure that they'll want to know more.
Sure. Yeah. And thank you so much, Nikki, for sharing part of your journey. It's powerful just to hear that arts has been part of your healing process. And I really see the arts as, that's why I'm attracted to it as well as healing, whether it's just around healing our connection with ourselves, with other people. When we talk about team connection, a lot of it I do think is in, I could put it under this umbrella also of healing, as well as development, growth, learning. So Late Nite Art, Nite is Nite. So the best way to learn more about us is go to our website, lateniteart.com. Again, Nite is Nite. And yeah, we have a number of different ways that we engage. We used to do a lot more community and public events. I think we're going to start doing that again. And we also host industry leader events. So right now, the next one that we're going to do is specifically for product marketing leaders. And so we bring the people who are the best in the industry together, and we host these kind of community networking groups. We've done it for culture, for people development, and yeah, so that's just another way that we're kind of hosting workshops outside of the realm of just working with clients. Yeah, but the best way to learn about us is website, and then I think the newsletter on the bottom of the page.
All right, fantastic. Well, Adam, thank you so much. Appreciate your time today, and very excited to get the message out about the great works that you guys are doing.
Thanks, Nikki. Thanks for having us on board.